and welcome to another poor excuse of an episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts. I have lost over 120 pounds and kept it off for over 6 years. I'm a Tiny Habit certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach, and here is my inexcusable, perfect husband. I don't know. I should have thought of that beforehand.
There's no excuse for me, Donald Weigel, and I am here to talk about weight loss and fitness, and I've lost about 100 pounds. I've also kept it off for about 6 years, and I have no excuse for not doing something. I don't know.
Anyway, we made many excuses for many years. How many years were we? It's like 17 or 18 years of marriage.
Oh,
that
yeah.
We made excuses of every kind to blame the world around us for every circumstance.
And then lots of excuses before that. Also, like even I don't know how much I can fault myself for weight mistakes I made when I was like 8 or 9. But it started way back then for sure.
But I think that we start building our moral compass and our food compass very early, whether we are told by others that like it is shameful to eat a certain amount, or if we're just sort of born like us, really liking large amounts of food.
Yeah.
But it can really sort of guide the way our brains work because of many reasons, up to and including poor boundaries, making excuses to get away with things that we know we should be better at, but we don't.
Yeah.
Which I did for like decades of my life. And it wasn't until I realized that my health wasn't a game to be like tricked by other people that I actually started living a life that wasn't just reacting to the unfairness of things, and actually decided that it was time to live life on my own terms and take responsibility for my actions.
Yeah. And, we talked about last episode, we talked about loopholes. And I think for a lot of people, the thing that you think of first, maybe, like a tax loophole. Like you think about those fat cat billionaires using tax loopholes not to, pay their fair share or something like that.
Our buddies at Enron.
Exactly. But, it turns out that we are very good at finding excuses or loopholes in the rules that we've made for ourselves, or in the things that we've said we want to do. We find these loopholes as excuses not to do them. And we sort of justify our actions by telling ourselves these little lies all the time, so that we can end up doing the easier thing.
Well, and I mean, as you might see with younger people that the kinds of like giving up that maybe other generations do of like, there's no way to figure this out. I'm too overwhelmed. I don't have enough, whatever. And darn well that they do have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
It's really hard to change someone else's opinion about what they're capable of when they would prefer to believe that they are overworked under, like, there's no change in the circumstance. There's no way I can do this, because it lets us off the hook. If we think to ourselves like, oh, well, there's no way to fix this, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's just a circumstance and you have to deal with it. But once people see that there are solutions, they have the unfortunate understanding that they have agency in their lives and can actually make
Wait a minute,
change.
what? You mean I can actually do this? I have to actually do something to make the things I want to have happen?
Well, and I think I know as a younger employee, I would want other people to fix problems for me. And I was always super annoyed when my boss would say like, so what do you think the solution is? And I'd be like, I don't make enough money to come up with this. Like, it was very reactionary and and sort of,
Oh my goodness.
fold your hands over your chest and like want someone else to do the work for you. And I think a lot of weight loss plans are sort of like that. Like, I want this weight loss plan to fix me. And if it doesn't fix me, then I want my money back. Like,
well, and a thing I run into a lot, and when I say I run into it, I feel like it's mostly online. I see people, they come up with excuse after excuse for why they can't do it. And then it's sort of that like cross my arms and make that like, scrunched up face expression and change my mind, or there's nothing I can do. Well, obviously I can't do it.
Well, and I think, too, one thing that people love is to be right.
Oh, yeah.
When we're right, everything we do is justified. We are the center of our own worlds. It is us against humanity. I know I'm making this a lot, like just because you want an extra donut in the lunchroom.
That's right.
But that sort of like self-centered idea that I've got it all figured out, and these are my circumstances and there's no way to change it, absolves you from adapting and being open to the idea that there are new ways to look at things. And so often we are, and like we've said this before, we're our own worst enemies, because there is that, sort of childish part of us that wants to be right, wants to be justified, and wants the excuse to stay exactly as we are. Because that's effortless. It is effortless to just keep going, in the direction that we're going, and decide that, it's everybody else's fault that we can't get something done. So we, like you said, we just sort of cross our arms and imagine that this is just the way life is.
Yeah. And so this came from, and we talked about it last episode, and we're talking about it this episode. We are calling these Thinside job. Because, whenever there's like a bank robbery or something, like usually like someone on the inside is involved. And in this case, that person is you.
Well, and it's usually the nice person, right? Like, I never would have expected it was the janitor's grandmother that did it. Or like, it's always like the mild-mannered person. And we keep multiple personalities, right? We act like, we act like we're like advocating and forward thinking, whatever. But in reality, like, we want people to think like, you're right. All I eat is salads. Like, I also don't know why I'm not losing weight. When in the background, that other part of us is like, oh, you know exactly why, but like, I'm not going to change it.
Yeah. Last episode, we talked about my secret Matlock-like personality, which, I have another personality, which is of a Southern lawyer who wears like a white suit and a bolo tie.
I'm not
and
super
argues.
attracted to that.
Look, this is not my problem. This is your problem. You married me, so you get what you get.
Okay.
So last episode, we talked about arguing with ourselves into doing the things we say we don't want to do. And in other words, invoking loopholes. And this comes from Gretchen Rubin when she was researching her book Better Than Before. She was researching habit change and how people effectively add habits to their lives. And she came up with these 10 loopholes that people invoke to get themselves out of doing things. Well, we talked about 3 of those last episode, and then researcher, author Catherine Weigel has come up with some others, and she didn't tell me what they were or are. And the same thing is happening this episode. We're going to talk about 4 of Gretchen Rubin's, and then an undisclosed number of Catherine Weigel's.
Yeah, I'm refusing to, because I don't know what I'm going to feel like saying. We'll see what I say.
Yeah, which is that another loophole? You don't know what you're going to feel like, so you don't want to plan ahead?
Yeah, I'm definitely that way.
So last week we talked about the false choice loophole, the moral licensing loophole, the tomorrow loophole.
Those were all Gretchen Rubin.
And then the Catherine Weigel novelty-shaped loophole, which I imagine the loophole itself being novelty-shaped and like, you're trying to fit like a Christmas tree-shaped block through a round hole or something. The all-inclusive loophole, finally, the garage sale loophole. And so this week, we're gonna we're going to keep you in suspense about how many you're going to get, but at least 4 of Gretchen Rubin's.
And an undisclosed number of mine. I actually remembered one while we were recording the last episode, so I am excited to see what else I come up with. I should be an active listener. Aren't I supposed to be an active listener where I'm not supposed to predict what other people are saying?
Yeah, you're supposed to, but I'm actually fairly bad at that. I'm always trying to predict what people are going to say. So we will start with the Gretchen Rubin ones. And in case we didn't say it, the point here is, at least for me, I know personally, one of the real breakthroughs in actually being able to put the habits in place that got me to my goal weight, one of the biggest breakthroughs was when I recognized I was lying to myself. It made it much harder for me to keep lying to myself.
Yeah.
So when you know you're doing one of these things, so listen for things that, sound familiar to you, like maybe you're doing it to yourself. And some of these may not apply to you, but know that they're going to apply to somebody out there. And some of them will apply to you, and maybe all will apply to you, but we will find out. So the first one is the lack of control loophole.
Oh, this is a very big one, Donald.
And this is when you tell yourself, I can't help myself. I have no self-control. When I get around X food, I have no choice but to eat it. Once I start eating something, I can't stop.
Yeah, and though it is very difficult to change habits that are deeply ingrained, using words like can't, never, won't, like all of those forever words, like we talked about in the Never Say Never episodes, it's really important to pay attention to when you say those, because you're telling yourself it is impossible to change, when in fact we can unravel those habits that don't serve us and really come up with ways to have better control over them. And it is effortful. It is not just like, oh, well, one word trick to blah. Like it takes effort to stop that behavior and sort of rechannel it to, I find it hard to help myself, but I'm sure there are ways that I can do that.
Yeah.
Self-control is difficult for me, but I know I can find the tools and the skills to do that. Like when I get around X food, I have no choice. Hey, I know how to plan to keep this in my life in a measurable way. Being able to change that language to the hope of being able to modify, change, or improve a relationship with food really does help.
And, as we've said before in other episodes, one of the reasons that this one is so important is because when we tell ourselves something, we want to be right. Like people like to be right. And when you tell yourself you can't control yourself around something, you want to be right about that. And so therefore you're not going to, even try to control yourself around something. You're trying to give yourself permission just to go whole hog, or whatever it is the kids say today.
Yeah,
that means whole hog. Yeah.
Say. I had to ask our daughter, there was something the other day. People say, oh gosh, what is it? It's like, I'm feeling some kind of way.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
that drives me crazy.
And I was like, is that like a good thing or a bad thing? And I had to give her the example that I heard.
It seems like a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing. Because I thought it was a bad thing.
I've heard most people say it in a way that makes me think it's a bad thing. Like they say, oh man, when you do that, you're making me feel some kind of way. I don't like it.
Well, our daughter says that is incorrect, that some kind of way is like a butterflies in your stomach sort of thing. So again, knowing is half the battle, which anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, but language changes. So who even knows?
No one even knows.
Yeah. So the next loophole is the planning to fail loophole. As Donald Weigel has been famously quoted, when you fail to plan, you don't have a plan.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites in air quotes, because it's something that is near and dear to my heart because I did it so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like realizing I was doing it really has been super key. And actually, sort of taking agency and actually planning ahead has been huge for me. But sorry, why don't you explain what the loophole is?
Okay, so the planning to fail loophole is also called the apparently irrelevant decision loophole. That, like, gee whiz, who knew this was going to happen? We've done episodes called 365 Surprises, where we act like every day is a shocking revelation of, I had no idea that people were going to bring in food to work. I had no idea it was Taco Tuesday. How many Tuesdays are there even in a year? Nobody can count them.
Like, you make a decision. You're just like, well, I'm going to go run errands now. Like, what does that have to do with food and overeating?
And then you realize that you forgot to eat before you went to run errands. And then suddenly you're in the fast food parking lot starving. Like, who knew that was going to happen again?
Yeah. Or you're saying to yourself something like, well, it's such a nice day. I'm going to go for a drive or a walk or a run or a bike ride.
And then you're like, oh, there's that bakery that just opened.
I just happened to take my drive or my walk right in front of the bakery that I love.
While we're here, we want to support the local economy.
I can't believe that happened. Oh, and you know what? I better stay late at work to catch up on things. What does that have to do with eating?
Oh no, I forgot to bring extra food to work, so now I'm starving and I can't meal prep, and so I just need to get takeout again.
I had planned on making this healthy dinner at home that really fit into my plan, but now I'm working late. I guess I have to stop at my favorite fast food place.
I love how we sound like those infomercials where it's like, has this ever happened to you?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it's just those people who are incredulous that they had to work late, that there was a holiday, that they had leftovers, and act like they are victims to every single circumstance. Even though we don't know what a day has in store for us, we generally know that there's food included. We generally know at this point that if we go out of the house hungry, we might make a food choice that isn't helpful.
Yeah.
If we don't keep, like, I actually ate, I like to call it, like, not sad food, but like not super delicious food when I'm hungry. Anyway, this is about nuts, everybody. Salty nuts. Super salted nuts are delicious. Lightly salted nuts, they're fine. It's like basically
I think they're still delicious, but
anyway, I ate a package of lightly salted nuts so that I wasn't starving by the time we finish this episode and then make really poor food decisions. So planning for the kinds of things that you know to be true about yourself, like when I go out grocery shopping, maybe it's better that I eat before I go.
Yeah, like I don't know how many times in my life I, left to run errands at, say 10, 11 a.m. and then was just shocked at how hungry I was when the errands took a couple of hours and it was, deep into lunchtime. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so shocked. Like, how many times did I have to do that before I realized that I was doing it intentionally so that I would have no choice except to grab something from, the supermarket deli counter or the mall, whatever, food court or something like that, or swing by a fast food place because I had another errand to run, something like that.
Right. And we've done an episode, it was a long time ago, which I think we might repeat soon. We did an episode called The Convenience of Convenience. And we sort of, I think in that it's been a minute since
that was like our
that.
5th ever episode.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I know that because I was recently looking at our very early episodes.
Oh my gosh.
It was right around episode 5.
We were kids.
Yeah.
We had feathered haircuts.
Yeah, basically.
I don't know.
We were basically wearing those like sailor suits and had giant lollipops.
Oh my gosh.
Because we were so young.
We were children. But that idea of making backup plans normal. It's not emergency food. It's not, break glass in case of some whatever. It's kind of a good luck thing. Preparing for the future is like, oh, I have to work late. What good luck. I have a shelf-stable food product in my cabinet, and I can eat that for dinner, and it's no big surprise. Oh, I had to work late, but there's a fast food place that has a Happy Meal that I can get, and it stays within my calories, and it's not the end of the world. Oh, I always keep and I do this, I'll just say it like a normal human. I keep an extra pair of gym shoes and socks in my trunk. So it's like, oh no, I forgot my gym clothes. Now I can't do anything. Or
Right.
like, oh, whatever. Like, oh, well, I got my shoes. I could go walk around a little bit. The more backup plans we have in anticipation of whatever, the easier it is to go through life in a non-victim state. It's not this panic, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I would get lightheaded if I didn't eat. Oh, now I have no choice. Having those backup plans is just that, like, your past self looking out for you. Like, it's like Back to the Future, but the other way around. Like, hey, I'm here to help you out because I know you're the kind of person who gets hungry.
Is that back to the present?
Now, back to
I don't know.
Back to the now future.
Stay in the now?
I think, I can't remember who it was. I think Heather Robertson on Half Size Me talked once about like treating yourself like a toddler. Maybe it was Gretchen Rubin. I can't remember. A lot of people talk about babies. I tend to talk about them in bad terms.
Yeah, no, you really badmouth babies quite a bit.
But it's like, you know that if a baby stays up too long, they're going to get cranky. If you keep them up past their whatever, it's not going to go well. You know they're going to have a tantrum if you do, I don't know, whatever.
I'm going to have a tantrum if I'm up past 9 p.m. So
I know, we actually have to
know
stay
how
up late.
babies feel on this one.
But it's sort of like, you know, after one meltdown that like, okay, I need to pack some Cheerios, which are also loopholes. If you think about it, crunchy, weedy loopholes.
Yeah.
But like, you keep things around to stave off tantrums. And why not do that for yourself and just have some things on hand that are your backups, that are your good luck meals, that are there just for those times that don't go as you anticipate. Because I think a lot of that revenge eating also comes from unmet expectations. Man, I was going to get out of here at 5 o'clock and make a great dinner, and now I can't. Like, my job is terrible. Now I'm going to go revenge eat about it. Or, oh, I can't go to the gym. See, nothing ever goes my way.
Right,
like, I'm just going to whatever. But just going like, oh, I could still do a 5-minute walk. I could still, do a little stretching routine. Not every day is going to be ideal. And recognizing that now and planning for a variety of backups is just like what grown-ups do. Instead of being passive aggressive and revenge eating about it, we can be advocates for our own health.
And just before I jump into the next one, Catherine just alluded to it, but one of the most successful, I don't know, I almost want to call it a diet hacks that I have done, but really it's just sort of closing this particular loophole, is keeping a calorie-friendly frozen meal in the freezer at home that I always have ready, and one at work that is always there, so that if I do get stuck late, my option is not just to grab fast food or takeout. The option is I throw the meal in the microwave and it's ready in 3 or 5 minutes, and I don't have to then invoke this loophole.
Yeah, I can talk a lot more about, and as you're saying that, more things that I used to do, like putting the potatoes chip bag of groceries right in the back seat, right where I could grab them while I was driving home. Oh no, I'm hungry. What am I going to do? So all the groceries go in the trunk now.
Exactly.
Full stop.
All right. So the next one, this is number 6 on Gretchen Rubin's list, is the "this doesn't count" loophole.
Count.
I am on vacation, so this doesn't count. I'm sick, so this doesn't count. It's the weekend, so this doesn't count. I've had a hard day, so this doesn't count. I'm really upset about something, so this doesn't count. Yeah, I guess you probably get the point. But this one, in my mind, is very linked to magical thinking about, well, our choices don't count under certain circumstances. Like, calories still exist, and whatever we're eating still affects our bodies in the same way. But also, it is very linked to emotional eating. And for me, it usually is the sort of latter ones I mentioned that are, somebody was really mean to me, and it's almost like the like, I deserve this. But I've had a very hard day, so this doesn't count, because I'm going to eat this because I need a treat to make myself feel better. And it was a vicious cycle of just, overeating to make myself feel better. Then I would feel bad about overeating, and then I would eat more to feel better. And it's not exactly what Gretchen Rubin intended, but I think it all ties together.
Well, and also I know that there is the culture of like, well, calories don't count on your birthday. Like, well,
yeah.
Disney calories or no calories. Like, and that's
Was that your like little like party horn like at the end?
no,
That
it was
sound
kind
you
of
were
like
making?
a mom group like clattering
Oh,
and
they're
kind of laughing like
that's their laugh, like "Brr, brr, brr, brr."
yeah, I don't
Okay,
know. I'm
all
not
right.
in a mom group. But those things that we say, other people hear that. And I know we know it's a joke and we're trying to justify what we're doing, but little kids hear that. Kids hear like, oh, well, that doesn't count. Well, this is, and it becomes ingrained as sort of like, yes, that does not count. I deserve this. Like they're little babies who don't know anything and they're highly susceptible
Right,
to what
for
they
sure.
hear. And even in like negative and positive ways, the more like negative input, that's what you hear, that's what they hear, and the more our brains believe it. They can't tell when we're joking or when we're serious. And when we do that, like this doesn't count, this doesn't count, this doesn't count, again, well, I didn't know that they were going to bring in bagels, so this kind of doesn't count. I'll just like push it down the road to the next decision. When we can come up with some standards of behavior for ourselves and take accountability for it, even just changing the language to this doesn't count to being I am making a choice to kind of pause my
Right.
habits right now is better than this doesn't count. Like,
Yeah, like saying to myself, I'm just parroting back what Catherine was saying, but saying to myself that I am making a conscious choice to eat this treat, even though it's not on my plan, is much more responsible and makes it much harder for me to overindulge than saying this doesn't count to myself.
well, and I know we did an episode, I think, on vacations at one point where I posed the question, are you taking a vacation with your habits or from your habits?
Yeah.
And is it like, you're getting back to your true self, your true nature when nobody's looking or when you're invoking this loophole? And then you're like, your public face is the one that, eats salads and drinks water? Or are you taking it with you? Are you taking some habits with you? Yes, Donald Weigel. What are you
I don't know. I was
laughing
just thinking about having a public face and a private face, and like my private face eating different things from
No,
my
but that
public
does
face.
happen.
No, I know,
Like-
but I don't know. I was thinking of it more literally, like I'm actually putting on a different face. It made me chuckle.
Oh, well, that's good. I
Yeah,
like it when you laugh. So I guess we're on the last one.
The last Gretchen Rubin one before we get into the really good ones
Yeah.
that Catherine has come up with. The last Gretchen Rubin one is the questionable assumption loophole, and this is when you're making an assumption about something, or you're taking something to be fact that may not be true or probably isn't true. So you may say, running is the only real exercise. So if I can't run, then I'm not going to do anything. Or strength training is the only way to be really fit, and you're ignoring all of the other ways that you can get fitness. Or we talked about this in the last episode with Catherine's all-inclusive loophole. I need to get the most value out of this. So if I'm going to eat at an all-you-can-eat buffet, well, I have to get my money's worth out of it, which is a questionable assumption. Or, the only way to be healthy is to eat whole foods. If I eat anything processed at all, then this one is like a real thing for me.
Yeah.
Then I can't possibly hit a goal weight or be healthy. Or it's almost the weekend and I can only start my plan on a Monday. So
Yeah.
I may as well just wait till a Monday to start.
Well, and I think we confuse preferences with absolutes.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
What works for us does not necessarily work for everyone. And and this was kind of one that I had as an extra, but it doesn't really count. I had it as like the one way loophole of like, unless I can do this, I'm doing nothing.
Right.
And being so rigid about it instead of just being like, what would an active person do?
Right.
What would a healthy person do? What would someone who cared about their health do? instead of being adaptable, we're super rigid about it, and then super judgmental too, instead of being open to alternatives. And this can be for like our food habits or our life habits. It doesn't have to be our way. It's just a preference. It's not an absolute. And one of the other things that Gretchen Rubin talked about with the questionable assumption is she mentioned something about it being like, you say to yourself, this habit is so ingrained. There's like, I'm sure I'll stay with it forever. Or like, there's no way I could, fault it.
Right.
And it gets into sort of that like Breaking Bad canaries in a coal mine sort of thing where it's, oh, well, my policy or my standard is I always track before I eat. And then after you've been doing it for a long time, you go, oh, well, I always track before I eat, but I don't really have time now. And I'm sure I'll remember later. And then you get into a habit of like not doing your habits and just saying you'll do it later until that becomes the new normal. And then suddenly you're like, why am I up on the scale?
Right.
Like you used to track all the time, but then you start skipping weekends and then wonder like, well, what's going on? It's that assumption that we're keeping our standards exact at all times. If we don't pay attention to them, they can fall by the wayside, which has definitely happened.
Yeah, it's that old slippery slope. We talked about it a lot in a recent episode called Never Say Never, which was like 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Exactly. So those are Gretchen Rubin.
Now we're on to the new, exciting Katherine Weigel ones. I don't know what these are going to be. I don't know how many of them they're going to be. Katherine may not even know how many of them they're going to be.
I have no idea. I come up with lots of words and things. So Gretchen Rubin, again, she is actually a published author, and I am a person with words on the internet. So I guess yet. Yeah. So I will give you some of mine. This is one that I'm very excited about that I thought about, and here we go. This is what it is. The Kinder Egg loophole.
Oh my goodness! I have no idea what that might mean.
Do you know what a Kinder Egg is?
I have. Is it like it's got like a toy in it or something?
Okay. Yes. So it is a plastic toy. It's a plastic egg.
I know our like high school age teenager likes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So half of it is some sort of desserty like candy.
Oh, there is candy in it.
And then the other half is a unique little toy that is going to be great in the garage sale that we're going to have.
Yeah, no.
But the Kinder Egg loophole is the collect them all loophole.
Oh yeah.
Collect
oh my god, I'm
such
I allow I was about to say I'm such a victim of this, but I allow myself to be a victim of this.
Available
over and over
in 3 unique colors. Collect all 4. Well, it's like the actual candy bit isn't all that exciting, but just the novelty and the dopamine hit of the random little toy inside. We now have like these random toys like that live in the plants in our kitchen. Because there's like a little squirrel holding a stick for some reason. And then there's a little alien. It's only like the size of your thumbnail, sort of. It's very small, but there's like an alien also for some reason. And then she just gives them to me. She wants to open it and she wants the thrill of it. And then she's like, here, you have to deal with this now. And that idea of the novelty, well, I need the sipper cup that goes with it. I've got to collect all the different colors of it. Now they've got there was like a black Spider-Man bun at Burger King last summer.
I need it.
Of like the novelty color thing. Collecting all of the food varieties, the Space Jam themed Oreos.
Well, as someone who collects toys that have random limited edition, like you have a chance at getting a random limited edition, or trading cards where there's like a 1 in 47 billion chance. Like I definitely understand the impulse to try and like buy more of something, but in the case of like Kinder Egg, you are buying more and probably eating more calories than you intended to get your little toy prize.
Right, just because you want to get the Ron Weasley little toy that comes in the Kinder Egg.
Yeah,
okay,
I like that.
So the next one is the I'm trying to decide which is funnier to say. I'm going to call it the on a stick loophole.
On a stick
Novelty
loophole.
packaging, novelty on a stick loophole. What is more fun than food on a stick, Donald?
I don't believe that humans have come up with anything
When you
yet.
find out that there's a pierogi on a stick, you need to go get it.
Yeah, no, many of them.
When there's like pizza on a stick, there's fettuccine alfredo on a stick, soup on a stick. You're like, how are they getting soup on a stick? I need to go find out for my own self right now because that is exciting marketing.
Yeah, in all seriousness, like, and it's actually pretty calorie friendly. Morningstar Farms has like a corn dog on a stick, but it's actually like a pancake, like wrapped around a vegetarian corn dog on a stick.
So convenient.
But it's only like 150 calories or 80 calories, something like that. It's not bad. But anyway, it like the fact that it's on a stick is so much more appealing than if it was not on a stick.
Oh my!
If it was stickless.
Well, and there's like, like taco, but it's in a cup, or like a croissant, but it's in the shape of a whatever. Like,
yeah.
What? How? What will those
a
geniuses?
Deconstructed club sandwich.
Like, what will they come up with next? I've got to try that out. So the things on a stick, it sort of ties into, again, I don't know how many I'm going to say, kind of, it's almost like the country fair mashup kind of thing. We're going to take a taco and we're going to dip it in sangria, and then we're going to deep fry it and then put it on an Oreo.
Yeah.
Like, that is a wacky combination. I've got to make that happen.
I have to try it.
And
now.
the soup is on a stick.
Yeah,
so,
I need that. A sangria taco for sure.
Okay. There's also one that it's actually not a bad one.
Is this a new loophole?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the Around the World Challenge loophole.
Oh.
The international branding. There are a lot of festivals that have, like, go to every kiosk, and if you do, you'll get a stamp. And then when you get the stamp, you'll get this other stamp. Like that collector thing again.
I know.
Of like,
I fall for this one too.
Around the World at Epcot. You've got to get the Around the World
I was going to
thing.
bring up Epcot because, I make everything about going to a Disney theme park, basically.
But again, and this isn't a bad thing, but with the glut of sparkling water options in the world, when we were like in the 80s, what was maybe like the one option for sparkling water?
It was either Perrier or Pellegrino.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Perrier, right?
Yeah.
But now Perrier is like one of hundreds. There's your bubbly.
Yeah.
There's what's the
LaCroix.
other? LaCroix.
Yeah.
So
Waterloo.
many different ones.
Like there's like a lot.
But guess what?
What?
Suddenly you put a beret on the can and I'm in.
Yeah.
So
you want that. Is there a beret loophole or a
so this is the branding.
French themed loophole?
This is the branding. The Perrier that I got the other day from the store is now called Maison Perrier France Ultimate.
Ooh,
What?
Ultimate.
What? It's sparkling water, but guess what? It's Maison Perrier.
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm suddenly in France. Am I on Montmartre? Like, what is happening? Like,
You're sitting around remembering that waiter, Jean-Luc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's an international experience. When something is marketed with a new branding that makes it feel like you are on vacation, it is very exciting. Now, in the terms of Perrier, 0 calories right there.
Yeah,
but
so,
then
you're fine there.
it's not a big deal. But there is definitely that desire to feel like you are a person of, like, international intrigue.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're like, oh, P.F. Chang's now sells their bagged orange chicken. Like, what is this? I'm suddenly in international affairs. Like, this is amazing. I can have it at home.
Well, I almost bought a case or more of regular, like, full calorie Coca-Cola the other day because they have, like, a limited edition Marvel Comics themed cans right now.
Oh, I did not know
was
that.
very,
Again, this seems to be
very hard for me not to buy it. And then, like, well, I've got the soda. What am I going to do with it other than drink it, I guess?
Yeah, but then you'll have the cans forever.
I know.
So watch out for that sort of marketing as though it is taking you on a whirlwind trip around the world. I have more loopholes, but I will save those for next week.
Next episode, you will get even more. You will get Gretchen Rubin's final 3 loopholes, and then Katherine Weigel's final 17.
Yeah, I don't know how many I have. Hopefully, I'll
and
come
by
up
then
with
she'll write more.
Yeah, but if anyone has any loopholes that they want to share with me, I would appreciate it. But again, just think about the ones that we have talked about today: the lack of control, planning to fail, this doesn't count, and then the questionable assumption loopholes. Really think about how they play a role in your day to day. Now, you might even say, like, well, I don't do that much. But then when you add up all of the other loopholes,
that's also a loophole, telling yourself you don't do stuff that often.
That is a really big one of like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But then suddenly you add up all of the justifications that you make and realize that almost every day you've got some reason to avoid doing what you say you want to do. So
you didn't mention your own loopholes either. The Kinder Egg loophole, the On a Stick loophole, or the Around the World Challenge loophole.
Around the World Challenge. So what resonates with you? What can you call yourself on? And then again, how can you make your choices fit what you say you want for your future self? How can you work in maybe smaller, less ideal compromises to propel you forward? What can you do to break up with that all or nothing thinking that it has to be some perfect circumstance in order for you to make progress? Like Donald said, the more we have been in touch with the way we speak to ourselves, the excuses that we make, and the agency that we can take in our own lives, the better our lives have become. It feels much better to be a champion of your choices than just imagine that the world is running you over and is uncompromising and that you're just a victim in everything. And if we can do it, you can do it too.
Absolutely, you can too. And in between episodes, keep an eye out for lying to yourself and in trying to invoke these loopholes, and let us know when you're doing it and when you've caught yourself on it. We would appreciate it. Also, you can listen to the most recent 300 episodes of this show on all of the major podcast platforms, wherever you found this episode, or you can go all the way back to our first episode and listen to every single one on YouTube or on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at our website, you can click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about Wolt Place. Wolt Place, We Only Look Thin Place, is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. We are not a weight loss plan. We have people doing intermittent fasting, Weight Watchers, calorie tracking, lots of different plans, but we are a place for support and accountability and lots of work on mindset when we're all working on our health goals. That doesn't, it doesn't matter what plan we're on. Our mindset is where most of the actual work happens. So it is a great place for connection. We do weekly Zoom meetings. I'm actually doing one tomorrow. And it's just a wonderful group of women working together on their health goals at all stages of their weight loss journey venture. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly subscription with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wolt Place is right for you.
And I believe it will be right for you. So check it out. You can also interact with us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at We Only Look Thin. And we have a YouTube channel. And you could also interact with us by sending us an email. If you have an episode suggestion, if there's something that you'd like to hear more of, if there's something we haven't talked about in a while, or if you have some questions for us, we've turned lots of listener questions into episodes of this show. We'll also try and do our best to answer your questions if you email us, or if you just want to say hello or give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you, and you can do all of those things at weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep, and if you have a couple of extra minutes, please head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review. It helps boost our position in the podcast charts, and it also helps helps us know that what we're doing after all of these years is still connecting and mattering to our listeners. So if you keep thinking to yourself, somebody else is going to leave them a review, somebody else will leave a star, take some agency and do that yourself. It will make us feel good, and it will make you feel good too.
Yes, indeed. And another thing that will make us feel good and you is just to tell somebody about the show. Word of mouth really does help the show grow. You know, when people hear directly from you and you can, give a little bit of a testimony that you've enjoyed the show, they're much more willing to put their time in and to take a chance on listening to the show that they've never heard of. So if you're talking to somebody, if you know somebody that might get something out of the show, or if you're on an internet group, if you are in a Reddit subgroup, if you are on a Discord server, if you're in a Facebook group, something like that, and you give us a shout out, it really does help the show grow.
Yep. So if you are not sure whether you would prefer to receive this podcast on a stick or in a Kinder Egg, just remember that Donald and I are
an inspiration. The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.